This is how I make resin magnets, such as this one and this one and this one. These are the materials that I normally use. This is UV resin that I just got from Amazon. These are some magnets that I got from Harbor Freight. You need hair cutting scissors, are easiest to use when using fur that is not already cut off of things. And then you need a silicone mold of your choice. I usually use a dotting tool to move around the fur inside of the mold. And then you can use whatever type of like nail file or sandpaper to sand down the edges that are not complete. So you need a participant that's willing. This is my cat, Cricket. He is going to be our example today. So I find that the best way to get hair off of them is normally if they're just sitting or laying down or whatever, like pet them and make sure that they know that like everything's fine. You can see actually this is where I took the fur off of him before, so it's a little more bare here. What you can do if your pet is really content and okay with haircuts is you can use a barber tool to shave it down, but sometimes that gets too close to the skin, so you'll have to use a guard to make sure that you don't cut them. But so you can either have someone's help to hold them down if need be, or what you can do is you can take closer to the head, so you can hold it down kind of with one hand, or like with these back 3 fingers, you can kind of push down to apply pressure so they don't run away. And then with your thumb and your pointer finger, you're going to pinch some hair. You have to make sure that you're not pinching the skin because you don't want to accidentally cut the skin or anything like that. But with your 2 fingers, you're going to hold it and cut. And you get a good amount of hair with it. This is pretty much all that you need, but if you want more just to make sure to make it really full, you can also do that. Normally I try to have like a little box on hand that I can put the hair into, but for right now I'm just going to put it on the table. And you can see here he has like a patch where now the hair is smaller, but it's not really that big of a deal because it's just hair. It's going to grow back. So I'm going to take a little bit extra from him just to make sure I have enough for my project. And he's pretty okay with it. Okay, go. So I normally use a nail lamp when I am working with UV resin. I know that this brand isn't super great. I got it from Amazon a while ago. I used it for my gel nails, but for me it's worked fine. It has different settings. It has a 10-second one that the temperature is pretty hot with, and then it has 99 seconds that's low heat. It goes from low heat, and then by the last 10 seconds it gets pretty high heat. So I like using that one when I'm doing more of like a deep pour for resin, but I know a lot of people don't recommend deep pour with UV resin just because it's easier for it to get bubbles in it. And if you want to use a lighter to get any bubbles out, you can. I personally don't really care if there's bubbles in any of my crafts because for me all my pets are still alive, so for me I can take more fur as I need, so it's not really that big of a deal. And I mean you can see the bottom of the resin through it. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. As long as you're not working with, obviously, fur that, like, you only have a small amount of, then it really doesn't matter. But if you are using fur that you only have a little bit of, like if you're using a deceased pet or a family member who's passed, then I do recommend trying this on like your own hair maybe, or someone that's willing to give you a little bit of their hair or like another animal's fur, just so you can practice to make sure that you're not using it on something that's sentimental, that you would be upset if it didn't turn out exactly as you want. Now for safety precautions, you should be wearing gloves. I don't have any gloves right now, so I'm just going to make sure that I don't get it on my hands. But of course, use this in a well-ventilated space. Don't get on your hands. Try not to get it on anything. I was going to put a mat down on the table, but I forgot. So we're just going to carry on without that. So normally what I do is you should make sure that your mold doesn't have anything inside of it that could stick onto your resin creation, because you really don't want to have to sand that off afterwards. I'm going to be using this small, actually I'll use this larger heart. Normally what I'll do is I'll wipe it down with a baby wipe, or you can use a lint-free alcohol wipe, or just whatever. Honestly, like, again, I don't really care because I can make as many of these as I want, so I'm just gonna wipe out like the grime and stuff that's in it, because it doesn't matter. Practice makes perfect, and it's not that big of a deal. So normally I have a smaller tip on here so it doesn't just all pour out, but I wasn't able to find my other tip, so I'm just gonna do it this way. So what you're gonna do is you're going to pour a little bit of resin into your mold. Oops. All the credibility is down the drain. You're going to pour a little bit of your resin into the mold, and then you're going to move the mold around until you get the resin all along the outside of the mold. This just makes it easier, so that way, like, if any fur is up against the mold, it's not going to, you're not going to be able to feel it through the mold. A lot of people have issues with that. I personally, again, I don't really care. But I mean, it also looks more professional if you're able to fully encapsulate it into the mold without any of the fur sticking out. So you're going to move your mold around, or you could use like a silicone tool or the dotting tool. And then I normally stick it underneath my lamp, and I do it for 10 seconds first. So it can cure it quickly while you're doing the rest of the things. So normally during this time is when, I don't know why this isn't stable here right now, but during this time I would be arranging my fur how I want it to be in my mold. So now what you're going to do, you can feel that the mold is harder, you can see that the resin is cured, and what you're going to do is you're going to add a small amount of resin into the mold, and again, move it around. This time you want the resin to be along the sides of it, so that way the fur fully sticks into it. So what you can do is you have to remember that this is the back of the piece. This is where you are going to be putting the magnet. So the piece is going to be in the mold like this. So you're not going to be able to see this side. So you're going to take the fur however you want it to look on the outside of it, on the part that you will be eventually seeing. So for me, I want to be able to see more of the white. So I'm going to put my fur in here. And again, don't touch the bare resin, but you can see not all the hair is submerged. So you can touch that part of it. So I like how that is. So what I'm going to do to fill in more space, or you could leave it like that if that's how you want it to be, I'm going to fill in more space by grabbing more of the hair. What you can do is you can bunch it up if you want. And I'm going to put it in like this. So you put it in the space that you want, and now you can see some of the hair is sticking outside of the mold. So you can take your dotting tool, you can see I strictly use this one just for resin, and you're going to push the hair into the mold. You push it in, make sure everything is in, and again, I don't really care, so I'm pretty sloppy with it. I've made a few pieces for family members and friends, and obviously with those ones you take more care to it. And again, if you're using this on a sentimental piece, I mean, all of mine are sentimental, but again, like if this doesn't turn out how I want it to, I'll stick it on the fridge and make another one. Like, it's not that big of a deal for me. If you see that there are any pieces that are not submerged, you can put more resin in it, or you can just leave it like that. But for me, this is fine because you can see it is fully submerged. There's some on the outside, and there you can just stick it in a little better. But for me, I'm now going to try and push it along the sides. And I can see that there's some blank space here that I want to fill in a little bit. So I'm using my dotting tool to push it around exactly how I want it to be. So now I'm going to cure this again for only 10 seconds. I'm gonna let it cure for 10 seconds. And now what you can be doing during that time is if you want to do like a color background, you can mix some of the resin with some glitter or some mica powder or whatever other inclusions you want to do. But for me, with most of my animal ones, I like them to just have a clear background. I also like that because then you can look at the back of it and you can see it from another angle and see that there's some other things to it, you know, and it's nice that way. And I like writing their names on it. But like if you had like beads, or if you have like a circuit machine and you can make their name out of it. So I've now cured it under there for 20 seconds. And you can see that there's some hair on the outside of it. Normally what I do is like see if it's really bothering you, you can use your finger to scrape away some of it. But see, like here, there's some that is just sticking out. So what you're going to do is you're going to put, carefully since I don't have a nozzle, I'm going to put more resin in it. And this will make the back smooth, because you can tell from the last pour, it wasn't enough resin to fully go over all of the hair. The hair was in the resin, but it definitely left a texture on it. So you're going to put another shallow pour, and you're going to cure it again for 10 seconds. So while that's curing, you can get your magnet. Press it again. If you're doing other stuff and it's just waiting there, just press the button again and let it cure again. And since that hair I'm actually not going to use, I'm going to put it inside my box so that way I can use it for a future project. And I try not to get any left out, just because, I mean, there's lots of other things you can do with it, like making buttons or making like a charm for a necklace or like a little shaker. There's a lot of things you can do, so it's best not to waste it if you don't have to. So now is going to be the part where you add the magnet. So you can either add this with E6000 glue at the end after you're done completely curing it, but I like to kind of encapsulate the magnet into it because I feel like that allows it to just give it a better sense of security of it not coming out. So I'm going to add enough resin to fill in my mold. And you can use your dotting tool if need be to help push it out along the sides. But now I'm just going to drop the magnet into it. And you can see it's filling out the sides more. Now this is the part where you have to be careful because sometimes I forget that I'm using a dotting tool and then it sticks to it as I'm trying to move the magnet, and obviously that, like, you don't want that to happen. So you can either use like a toothpick, for example, or you can just let the magnet go wherever. Like, again, it's not really that big of a deal, and if you're using a strong enough magnet, it really doesn't matter where on the mold it is. And again, you're going to put it in for another 10 seconds. And I don't know if you saw, but there was a bubble that came up within the fur. And again, like, to me, it doesn't matter. If you care about the bubbles, you can put a lighter over it before you cure it to get the bubbles out. Or you can let it sit for a few minutes to get the bubbles out. That's fine too. And then you're going to cure it. So now this is the part of the process that really matters for curing. Don't take it out of the mold yet, even if you think it's cured. Even if you think it's cured, cure it for longer. So what I do is I turn it over on the back of it now, and I do the long cure. Well, I do a short cure for 10 seconds, and then I'll change my settings to the 99 seconds, and I'll do that probably 2 or 3, even 4 times through the back of it. And then I'll flip it over to the other side and again do it 3 or 4 times on the 99 seconds, and then I'll shoot it again with the 10 seconds on both sides, just to make sure for sure that it's cured. But for the purpose of this video, I'll quickly do the 10 seconds. It's not going to be cured all the way, so I'll have to cure it again after I'm done with this video. But for this video's sake, we'll cure it for the quick 10 seconds. So now what you're going to do is you're going to carefully take it out of the mold just by gently pushing it out. And so I'm not going to touch it because it's still going to be sticky since it hasn't cured all the way. But you can see that the design I wanted of having some empty space up here and having some space up here worked. And the white I put on just one side. I made sure that the back part of the fur had the black and the front part of the fur had the white. And you know, the good thing about pets and their fur is that every time you do it, it's going to look different. This is the same animal. This is Cricket. And it's the same one, but this magnet looks completely different than this one. And it's great because, again, like if you have an unlimited supply of fur, like you're good. You're good to go. So you can see with my mold, I had been sloppy with it and some little pieces are still on it. So you can either cut those off with the different scissors. You can file it off. You can use an e-file, you can use a Dremel, whatever you want to do, but make sure again that it's in a well ventilated area. And then for these little furs and things that are sticking off, again, you can use scissors to it, you can use a file to it. For me, I'm probably just going to leave them as is. I'll take off these little resin pieces, but that is it. And then you can put it on your fridge or give it to whoever you want, but that is just how I get my furs to be the way that they are. Honestly, there's no real technique to how I do the fur. This piece, I believe I had cut off the fur and then I had done it in different segments because the cat that this came from had lots of different colored furs. I think I did the orange one first and I placed a big chunk, and then I placed the brown chunk and then the white chunk. But the most important thing to remember is that the part of the mold that the part of the magnet that you will see after is going to be this top part. So you have to make sure that the pretty part that you want to see is on the bottom of the mold facing down at the mold when you put it in, or else I guess after the fact, if you messed up, you could use E6000 glue and attach it to this part, but again, it's not gonna look right. But that's it. That's all that I do.